What?
Nothing.
Yeah. I got your nothing right here.
Do you have a good day today, babe?
I had a great day. Actually, I had a really good day. I had
Yeah.
a couple of new people today that are like struggling, like 19 years old and 42 different symptoms. And
19 years old?
yeah, postural, what's called POTS.
Oh, yeah. A lot
Postural
of
orthostatic
that.
tachycardia.
Yeah.
And among other things, just
Yeah.
a whole bunch of things. And she's going to do great. We see that clean
That's
up
exciting.
all the time. So, yeah, and just some good people, good responses, fun time.
You know, after the last episode that we did about the biochemic cellular mineral salts,
Yes.
oh my gosh, I've had so many people reach out and they are so excited about supporting their minerals that way. I think what I'm going to do is do a hair analysis on myself, send that off. I'm due for a hair color. You can't have it colored when you send it off. So I'm like, maybe Brenda can like keep
Sniffle it of your own natural.
one piece where I don't know how much gray needs to show. But actually one of the formulas is to reverse gray hair.
Then it's going to have a lot of calcium in it.
Probably.
I can tell when I'm taking more calcium, my hair comes in darker.
You know what? I think it's so interesting that you just said that because I was looking at the back of your head yesterday and I can see like this line of dark hair.
Yeah.
Along the back.
I've been supporting my minerals. Didn't tell you.
See, I could totally tell.
Uh-huh.
I'm so amazed, but I'm super excited. We can talk about minerals on another episode because we have something really fun to talk about. Do you want to lead us in?
Here we go. Get ready.
Yeah.
Past the fire, past the sounds. Moonshine through the clouds, saddle up, 'cause there's no stopping me now.
And welcome to a really exciting episode.
Just wait.
Well, yeah, we're living well together and we got a big life in our small town, but...
No
not
buts.
a but.
No,
Yeah, no
it's an
buts.
and.
All right. Yes.
Not a but, and an and. Yes.
Today we're going to hit a different chord.
A different chord. And what is this based on?
Experience.
Did you have an interesting thing happen over the weekend?
Well, our son-in-law, also our producer,
Graham and Honey.
is, when they're on the road, Grace is traveling with work and Graham and Honey are traveling with most of the time. And so Graham and Honey find ways to spend time.
Yes.
When Grace is getting work done.
Yeah.
And so one of the things they have done to figure out how to spend time is estate sales.
Uh-huh.
And so they'll rummage and explore and Honey ends up getting all kinds of stuff. People love that kid. And so they give her.
She'll find something and she'll pick it up and hold it for a while and they're like, you can have it.
Yes. So she leaves with all kinds of
treasures.
Let's call it treasures.
Yes.
So Graham shoots me a message and says, hey, here's a list of items that are going to be at this estate sale. And it was
this is in the Dayton area.
Yeah, here in the Miami Valley. And I thought, well, that's a good list. There are some things on there that I would think to myself, hey, we should go check that out.
Have you ever been to an estate sale before?
I don't think so.
Okay.
If I have...
You don't recall?
Yeah, no.
Okay.
I'm going to say
not the
no.
same impact.
I might have been to
Maybe
an
a different
auction
age.
or something like that.
Yeah.
Where things are being auctioned off, but not necessarily in that same setting.
So tell us a little bit about what makes it an estate sale then. Is it?
Well, an estate sale is, and again, we've got some friends in here that do this on the regular. I've
Yeah.
got a couple of friends that are auctioneers and that actually run estate sales.
Okay.
So an estate sale is usually what happens at a home or residence when somebody has moved on.
Okay.
And so
Moved on
they have
either-
transitioned
one way or another.
maybe to
a
another
new
job. Maybe they
location.
went to another location in a different city, and maybe
Another
they
location.
transitioned into the next life, like their eternal slumber. But what happened was
slumber.
the dirt nap. The thing that happened here was I was kind of excited. It was a nice Saturday. The weather was good. Sun was out. Clouds were fleecy.
And there really were some things that you were excited to see.
Yeah, there was a list of items where I thought, well, gosh, if somebody's getting rid of these, I should know.
Yeah.
And it turns out it was a 2-day sale. So most of what I learned, and Graham probably already knew this, but what I learned is a lot of the hot stuff goes on day one. And you're buying stuff for pennies on the dollar.
Okay.
Like it was crazy.
And they had like designer shoes or?
Oh, the guy had like a Nike, Air Jordan shoe collection, different models, different. I'm sure they were not cheap, but whoever purchased them probably got them at a pretty good price.
Yeah.
But firearms and ammunition and yeah, I mean, just a lot of stuff. The guy had a Harley. So here's what I learned. Ready? We get to this place, and it's in a nice area.
Okay.
I mean, that was probably a 2-acre lot. 3-acre lot, beautiful wooded lot on the side of a hill. It was probably a 6,000 square foot house. It was not a small house. And the driveway was super steep. Like Honey was walking backwards up the driveway because it was not and thankfully it wasn't in the snow and weather we had a few weeks ago, or we couldn't have gone.
Right.
So we're coming into this space, this new experience. And what I learned is you can learn a lot about a person or people walking through their house and seeing their items of ownership, the things they have.
The things that they actually made a choice to purchase.
Right.
Yeah.
But I don't know. So immediately I just started feeling kind of odd.
Gloomy.
About this. Well, here I am coming into this guy's garage because you walked into a lower level garage, and they, the people that were running the sale had it laid out really nicely and items, and it was fairly well picked over. There were a lot of people that were coming and going while we were there, actually, but a lot of the things of interest had disappeared from the sale on day one. But as and it was kind of a soft contemporary style home. It was a beautiful home. But what was obvious to me is after you move around in the house a little bit, it was a man who lived in this house. It was a man probably my age or younger. Just looking at the items, that were available for sale. He was a competitive fighter. He was on a competitive competition,
like MMA kind of fighting.
Probably.
Okay.
Because there were like medals, all those medals hanging in the garage for grappling. So grappling, and there were gloves that you would use for sparring and striking. All the belts that you would achieve as you moved through mastery and some kind of martial art were there. And there were no photographs, so I couldn't tell you what that person looks like.
Okay, yeah.
And the house had a masculine feel to it. Wouldn't you agree? Like it did. There were not lady items. There were no vases or, no indication really of a feminine experience there. With one exception, one of the bedrooms was clearly a little girl's bedroom.
Oh.
And so maybe a little girl lived there. And she had probably then become maybe a teenager or a young lady. Because you could tell by the books that were still on the shelf that, there were infant and toddler materials. There were stuffed animals. Honey fell in love with a unicorn stuffed animal thing. And we managed to not leave with it, which was kind of nice. But it was just odd to me. I don't know. I just had a weird feeling.
So did you guys buy anything there?
We left empty-handed.
Yeah. But when you came back, it was kind of, I felt like you'd seen a ghost or something.
Well, and I hadn't.
Right.
It was just kind of a melancholy feeling. Like, here's a person whose life is now being picked over by strangers, moving through a house, acquiring items that they have acquired for whatever reason, for pennies on the dollar.
Right.
I mean, I'm sure there's significant savings to the people buying things. It just felt strange to me. I can't explain why. It's not strange. I mean, it happens all the time, every day. Yeah. But it made me realize that at some point, somebody's probably going to be rummaging through my house.
Is that the part that made it feel weird?
Made it feel weird. It's like, oh, okay.
And you found out, I mean, we don't know if this is true or false, but this supposedly was a man who sold a business and moved out of town.
Right.
That was his transition.
Right.
You have no evidence.
That's what the sale guy said. He said, this is not, the sale as a result of a death. It was, the guy sold a company. But I mean, he walked away from, like his toothbrush was probably still in the drawer.
Yeah.
Things like that.
Right.
Like shoes and items of daily use. And it was strange. I did feel better once I knew he was still alive.
Yes. Especially because of you kind of putting an age.
Yeah. Yeah, he was probably my age or maybe not as old.
So do you ever feel that way, like going by what looks like an abandoned house? You can tell that it was a house that had been loved at one point, but it's overgrown, and like you don't even have to go in it, and you just
and it's funny. That's a good question. And there was a time when when the boys and I were driving somewhere, and the boys had observed something. We were out in the county someplace, but they had observed something, and some of the houses out in the county you can see from the road, and some of them are back a lane. But the mailbox was always down at the street, down at the road level. And I said, if we turned at this mailbox and went up to that house, there are stories there.
Yes.
Like everybody's got a story. Every house has a story. Every residence has heard laughter and heard crying and heard, whatever, birth or death or whatever. I don't know. It just struck me as an odd thing that day. But it does. It does force you to kind of recognize your own mortality, or did me.
Yeah.
None of us are getting out of this alive.
Right.
And then when we're gone, here's the deal. We came onto the planet with nothing.
Right.
No money.
Yep.
Naked as the day we were born.
Yep.
And we will probably leave the same way.
Yeah.
Like, you're not taking anything with you. You'll never see the hearse is not pulling a U-Haul full of junk.
Right.
So your stuff is just your stuff.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, somebody's going to have to manage it when we go. And that goes for your business. That goes for your finances. You came onto the planet with no money. You're going to leave with no money.
Yeah.
And so it just kind of put me in this mindset of finite existence.
Right. I can totally get that.
It was weird.
So your conversation while Graham and Honey came over after that experience made me start thinking about things that have popped into my head before. Like, I have this collection of sand, which I've probably talked about before. And it's sand that I've collected from around the world. Wherever we are, we take home a small amount, and I have them in clear lidded spice jars that are attached to a magnet board. And they're all marked from where they were from. And I love it because they are like almost like living memories for me. And yet I know in my heart of hearts that like, I need to like get rid of this before it's time for my kids to get rid of it. I don't want them to feel like they have to keep the sand that I've collected around the world. I wouldn't have the same meaning to them at all.
No, but you know what? Something like that is very personal, and it's a reflection of who you are.
Right.
A lamp is a lamp is a lamp, unless it has a meaning and unless it has, some connection to your heritage or your history or an event or whatever. And you're right. Probably the things that we connect to our kids or their kids or whomever. Eventually, all that stuff goes to a landfill somewhere.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, I can just, in my mind, it's like, and guys, don't feel bad about this, but I can just see all the sand just being poured into a giant jar and just shake it up.
Well, or just dumped.
Or just dumped into the yard somewhere.
I want this container, but I don't want this sand. And that's what people do. As I'm looking at the people in the sale, they would find items, and that they have no emotional connection to it unless they make one.
Yeah.
Oh, my dad had a car like this or model or whatever.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's just stuff. Was the point.
Yeah, it's just stuff. And so, which that led me. So I was thinking about the sand, and there's this, they call it Swedish death cleaning. And it's the philosophy behind that is you slowly get rid of things. It could be a drawer of stuff every month, or just kind of a slow process of filtering out the things that you need. Not really like a purge necessarily.
Well, and the things that we don't need anymore, somebody else could find very handy to have. So donating those items, and we do that, whether it's St. Vincent or Goodwill or whatever. So you want to have things be reused if they're still usable. But so much is just trinkets and trash. Like, I pity the fool who's got to come and clean out my garage.
So we should work on that. Maybe we can do some.
I
actually decided that we shouldn't call it Swedish death cleaning. We should call it a home audit.
Okay.
It doesn't sound quite so morbid and heavy.
Well,
but it's
part of that too is distributing things that you want people to have now. If you want them to have them in the future, you can share the stories and share the items and all that. Maybe while you're still here.
But I think that's the part where it's kind of tricky. It's like, I don't want anybody to feel like they have to be shackled to our memories.
That's a good point.
And so, but having the option to say, if you're making a list of things, I think I'd like that at some point in time, And
not that I'm in a hurry to get rid of you, but I sure would love that sweater.
I think Noble would probably claim your watch.
Well, and I do have a few items that,
Yeah.
we'll leave back and special things, hopefully, that people will appreciate. But, and you don't want to just start dumping your stuff either.
No, because I was thinking about that too. It's like, well, but we're surrounded by we've chosen these things for a reason. Like we appreciate being able to look at things that we've either experienced or like artwork that means something to us.
And I feel like we're pretty good at that. Like nothing in our house is really just there to take up space.
Yeah, it's all pretty functional.
Well, at least the parts that you can see.
Parts that you can see.
Like I said, in my garage, I got stuff that I just keep thinking, I may need that someday.
And you
it's
guys,
not.
I have to tell you,
Careful.
because I started doing this. I would go out in the garage like every, I don't know, like when he wasn't home.
This is so
and I
true.
would just go through some cabinets that I knew he couldn't see. And I just started throwing stuff away. I would just,
Because you
stuff
thought it
that
was
I
a
could
random
lift.
bag of junk or a random thing.
No, wait a minute.
But then what would
happen?
happen?
Well, there's tons of things that you haven't recognized as missing.
Well, not yet, until I go look for it. Because I know where it's at. You think it's rando. I know where it's at. And then I'll come back in and say, hey, where's that toe strap? And you're like, oh.
I don't even know what a toe strap is.
Something that I would hook to one car to pull another car. Or
I
to
would never
put
get
on
rid
the
of a
drag
strap like that.
Okay.
Anything that looked like it could possibly have a use, I just organized it with the other things that matched the way they looked. I know you have like your automobile section on one side, but those two cabinets were full of so much junk, and now they're empty. There's nothing in them. Yeah. So thank you. I mean, you're welcome. Thank you, and you're welcome.
Yeah.
But it's okay. I mean, it's those kind of things. It's like we don't need to keep it around anymore.
No, you're not
It's just
wrong.
clutter, and clutter is just heavy, So, but we can't get rid of the things that we like just because we're afraid of having them last longer in our house.
No, I'm going to
than
leave
we
all
need
that
to.
crap. Our kids will deal with it.
I'm sorry, Graham.
Yeah. They'll just have to deal with it. Or just let strangers come and walk through and pick it up. Whichever.
Yeah.
Whichever. And the goal's not. Well, and the goal's not to leave nothing, right? Like we don't want to
No.
ditch everything.
No, because it's not really about minimalism.
No.
That's a whole other movement, and that's not what we're talking about.
And part of it is living the way you want to live.
Live the way you
Your
wanna
house should
live,
reflect
yeah.
who you are, and your house, your dwelling should, be some kind of.
Yeah.
It's not
I
just a
think-
hovel. It's a place where
Right.
you enjoy being.
It's just that balance between what could be considered a burden by our family members and determining what stays and what goes ahead of time. You know what I
Okay.
mean? So while I like the idea of doing it,
Yeah.
it can't be just like dive in head first. There's definitely
Start
a balance.
pitching.
I know.
Start pitching.
Yeah. Yeah. We're just early 60s. There's no reason to start doing that at this point.
Well,
Do you think so, Graham? Like, yeah.
No,
Like-
I mean, it's like an audit. Just go through your house. and
Yeah.
see, is there just stuff that's taking up places?
anybody want this? Anybody want this? Anybody want this? Nope.
Trash.
Gone.
Yeah.
Like my parents did that when each time they moved,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's smart.
they had to touch it.
Well, we're not moving.
See, I think that's what the challenge is because of we've been in that house for 25 years, 26 years. And so we have never had the opportunity to be like, do we want this or do we not want this? Like it just kind of stays.
Yeah. Well, moving. If we were to move, that's what would create that opportunity.
Absolutely. Yeah.
What comes and what goes, or what stays and
Mm-hmm.
what goes. But and here's the other thing that's kind of significant just in this same weekend, because
Yeah.
the day after that estate sale, I learned of the passing of one of my
Yeah.
friends and mentors.
Exactly. Yeah. It was a surprise. This
Right,
wasn't, he
not an
wasn't
expected
sick.
thing.
Yeah.
They just found him. He went to sleep and didn't wake up. And he was a big person in the chiropractic profession, and his legacy will live on for a very long time through
yeah.
lots of practitioners, and his influence will stick around. But do you know what? His stuff still has to be managed.
Right.
So somebody, in one home in Puerto Rico, one home here in the U.S., multiple businesses that will need to be managed and taken care of. And I'm sure he had a plan for that, but I also
Sure.
know he didn't plan on leaving when he left.
Yeah.
So.
But nobody does.
But that's kind of like two significant things
Yeah.
that kind of just put me into that
Meshed.
mindset. And so what we want to kind of focus on maybe is not what happens to our stuff when we leave, but how do we manage our stuff when we're not leaving?
Exactly.
Like,
Yeah.
like what are the
Just
things
being
that
better
actually
at
make
it.
us feel alive? What are the things that we appreciate and why do we appreciate them? It's not that we need to acquire more things. We don't need more things.
No. Right.
But by the same token, you want to do the things that make you feel alive. Sand from around the world.
Yeah.
Name 5 places where we have sand from.
Well,
That you
one of
know
the
are-
ones that was super unique was the Isle of Skye in Scotland because it's black.
And that's another thing. Not all sand looks the same.
Oh no, it's different from everywhere.
Every bit of that sand is different. And we got just, a half a cup.
Oh, right. Yeah,
of
it's not very
sand
much
from
at all.
around the world.
And I always bake it so that there's no critters living in
Because,
it.
yeah, sometimes there's stuff in there.
Cape Cod because it has a special
Right.
emotions attached to Cape Cod for me because of growing
Yes.
up there. Virgin Gorda, which is one of the early trips that we took with the girls, and that was very special. Let's see. Italy, Gaeta, where my grandfather was born. So I have that sand too. And I think that, and the Isle of Capri.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So, and that was a trip that we took for my 50th birthday.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, there's sand from one of the traps at Royal County Down.
That you brought home.
Which
But
is a
see,
golf
I
course in
wasn't
Ireland.
there, but you did bring home your own memories.
Well, I just
you added to my
I knew that
collection.
it would go into your collection, but it's a chunk of yeah. They probably frown on taking sand out of the traps.
Actually, we might actually have some from Old Course too. I think I might have.
Oh,
brought
from
some.
St. Andrews. Yes,
Yeah.
I think that's true. We did that.
Yeah,
And so again, maybe the
and a
kids
lot
will,
from around the country too, from the United States,
all over the
like,
U.S.
Different islands, Bahamas that we've been to. So pink sand from there,
Mm-hmm.
and I do have pink sand from Bermuda, which that is mostly crushed up shells, so it's very, very pink and beautiful. We haven't ever been there,
Mm-hmm.
but I have it from Mom bringing it back and knowing that she has collected it.
Mm-hmm.
That made it still special to me too, just like you adding to the collection. Actually, the Bermuda sand is not in with the collection of ones that I have done.
Okay.
But I still have it because it just meant a lot to me that she brought it home to us. But there's other things too, like the artwork that the girls have done. I have that in photographs. I love, things that wouldn't mean anything to anybody else, but they are so special to us. And surrounding ourselves with the things that we enjoy,
Is what makes our house feel homey
like a home
to us
yes.
and alive.
Right, and alive.
Until there's
yes.
like 400 strangers just milling around, picking it over.
No,
and over and on,
we'll have to
like
figure that
seagulls
out. Yeah.
scavenging off a carcass.
So, as I was thinking about it, there was things that coming up like about labeling meaningful things, if you wanted to do that either.
Well, especially photographs. We've
Yeah.
got a lot of old school pictures.
we do.
Before there was a digitization process. Making sure that our photographs are labeled. Who are those people? What year is that? Maybe that location.
Yeah.
So that in the future, when our kids or grandkids or their kids want to know about their heritage, that gives them a little bit of a heads up.
Yeah.
But on the other side of the same coin, they may not care at all.
And that's okay because we won't even know.
Amen. We'll be all right.
And that's why I just want them to do whatever they feel best about.
Sure.
It's
It's not about urgency. I don't want you to think I feel urgent about this.
Oh, no, I know. It's just, I could tell that it really did impact you, like your thought process. And then, and that was just on Saturday. And then when you found out about this on Monday with your colleague, it was just a lot in a couple of days. But, it's okay to think about these things. Death is like something that we don't really want to talk about because it feels sad. And it's like almost grieving before you need to grieve in a way because you kind of let yourself go down that path. But weirdly enough, in my socials, I have been getting, in my feed, I've been getting information and posts from somebody called the Modern Mortician.
Alrighty.
And it's very, very fascinating.
Okay.
The information that she's sharing like fits our living well lifestyle or the idea about green everything.
Okay.
So the Modern Mortician advocates for having a death doula and that's
Tell
a
me
person.
more about that.
So just like a birth doula that helps somebody come into the world, the death doula helps somebody leave the world.
So it's a helper. It's a
helper.
transition.
It's not hospice. It
Right.
is somebody that works with the family, just like a birth doula works with the family, but is not the person that's necessarily in charge of the actual life event.
They're more just
So-
like emotional support.
And telling you the options that you have.
Okay.
So when you lose somebody, like when Dad died, we were all there with him. And it kind of would have been nice to have somebody there. I feel like we did it very well on our own. Like, you were asking what kind of music he wanted to listen to. And we knew that he was not going to be with us for very much longer. You were asking him very poignant questions, like if he was seeing anything. And so it was very, like, it made the experience very connected with all of us. And we could almost see through his eyes and mind what he was going through.
Yeah.
Because you had the foresight to be asking some of those questions.
Just knowing
And
that.
he was still very, like, your dad was unconscious when he died, and for about 3 days. So you didn't necessarily have the opportunity with your dad, even though he died at home too. Hospice was there with your dad, right?
No,
Hospice wasn't there. Was it just
they
even?
didn't make it.
Oh, okay. But they had kind of been,
They
yeah.
had been there, but yeah.
And they
no,
were monitoring medications and
Cheryl and Gary and Tim and I.
Yeah.
And Teresa.
okay. But with Dad, it was just us, you know?
Right.
And so having somebody there and understanding that when somebody dies, you don't have to, like, you can wait. You do not have to call the funeral home right away. You can live in that silence and quiet and just experience just that peace that
Yes.
comes before it really grips you, because you know, it's almost like honoring that person and what they have just gone through in that transition. And the way she describes it is that it's very sacred in that moment, and by staying in it for as long as possible until, you know, you're ready.
Until you're ready.
Till
That's
you're
right.
ready, instead of being hustled through it. Like when somebody dies in the hospital, there's a whole thing that's just
Oh gosh,
happened.
you lose control. Actually,
You are out of control.
You are not in charge of any of it.
So the modern mortician also talks about not doing embalming. You
Okay.
know, just or having a coffin.
Right.
Like they are in shrouds or wrapped up in things that are going to disintegrate into the ground along with the body. If you're going to do a cremation, she tells you how to do that properly, but it doesn't have to be rushed either.
Right.
And that you can go to the crematorium, I think that's what it's called, and be there, in the parking lot. She said people will bring their folding chairs and be there, and they see the smoke go up and they know that, like, so making it a very, like, instead of being disconnected as soon as they die,
Proper goodbye.
it feels like a proper goodbye. And so with these green funerals with the shrouds, and that they are like, a lot of them, there's fresh flowers that are kind of strewn through the burlap, and you know, they'll write notes that then get put into the hole, but there's like, it's not with the, because what do they do for most vaults? Aren't they like either concrete or metal, and they make you think you have to get the one that's going to prevent the water from getting in there, because you don't want the casket to float to the surface. You know, they make it sound like it's these horrible things. And she's like, all of that are lies, just so that you
Well,
can
there's a
spend an
whole-
arm and a leg
Yeah, there's a whole industry built around that.
right. And so it's just, I don't know, I just have really appreciated her content. And even though in the beginning, I'm like, why am I getting all of this right now? You know, this just feels weird that I'm reading all this. And then I've become, you know, it's sort of opened up my eyes to the way things can be that we don't really think about, because we think it's just funeral homes called, they pick up the body, covered in a vinyl bag. People can even ice the body and have a funeral at their own home if they want to. You know, have people come in.
And I think, you know, that industry or that process is kind of like any other. You know, you just get what you hear over and over and over again. Here's how they did it. Here's how they did it. Here's
Right.
how they did it. And the bottom line is, there is not a hard and fast rule. There's probably some legal considerations.
So I did actually do a deep dive about this, because I had heard that if you had a cemetery on your property.
No taxes.
No taxes. But I deep dived on it.
Okay.
Because I'm like, okay, well, you can bury me in the yard and then you don't have to pay taxes anymore. And it's only for the portion that is the actual cemetery. So like you have to mark it off in the, for us, it would be a township, but also the county would have to okay it because of the water tables and all that kind of thing. But then, so it wouldn't be worth it. Like it just wouldn't be worth the hassle of going through all of the paperwork to get your cemetery established on your yard for the reduction in taxes. Maybe it will in another 3 or 5 years. I'm not sure, but right now it's not.
I have heard that though, that if you bury family on your property, your property has funeral or has cemetery status, and then consequently. And if you think about it, when you look at the size of cemeteries, who pays property taxes on a cemetery? There aren't any.
No.
Not a bad way to think about it.
So do we need...
We need to do some more homework.
I don't know. Maybe we do. But so with the green funerals, it's less about management, more about presence. And thinking about it, like nobody really wants to think about it. I know when the girls were little and we were having to go through setting up a trust and a will and guardianship and all that, it was so heavy and so sad. And we kept putting it off. And finally it's like, we're being irresponsible parents by not taking care of this, especially because we traveled enough, even though we usually traveled separate while they were really little. It still didn't make sense to put it off. But even now thinking about, okay, well, how we should plan out that part too. So like, you don't have to guess for me. I don't have to guess for you. And just, being able to think it through. I think that's what I've liked about this information. It's like, oh, this can really be anything that we want it to be.
Yes.
And it doesn't have to fall in the guidelines of what the funeral industry has said that it's supposed to be. And when you think back, it's just like everything else. Like we talk about our food and we talk about how it's changed in the past 75 years, so is the funeral business, right? Because they used to bury their family in small family cemeteries, right?
True.
And that's why when you drive by and you see them on the side of the road. Oh, you want to wrap it up, don't you?
No, I'm just metabolizing information at this point.
So the other part of this
is...
You
don't have to talk all the time, right?
I love to hear your viewpoint and your perspective on stuff, especially when I can just.
Well, we don't do most things in a conventional way, so I can't imagine our wrap it up time on Earth being a conventional thing either.
Yeah, that's probably true. But thinking about these things makes me even more passionate about the things that we do to help while we're living.
Amen.
And death doesn't seem as scary if you've lived your whole life without regrets. As few regrets as possible. We're all going to have regrets, but so when we talk about mineral sufficiency, it's like that's just a small thing to make life better. Getting chiropractic care, making sure your nervous system is going. I had a craniosacral appointment this morning, and just talking about my vagus nerve and just calming my whole system down. And the way our body can go into still point and heal different parts of our system that might be imbalanced or needing a little love. And so it's just these little things that we can do to make living even more remarkable. He's still metabolizing for those that aren't watching him.
Well, no, you're not wrong. Here's an interesting case from today.
Okay.
I had a young
tell
guy
me.
today. This guy's 32, I think. And he just had a new baby. He and his wife just had their first baby. And I was taking care of his wife throughout her pregnancy, and she's done very well. Baby came, and he wanted to come in for care and get an evaluation, which I love, by the way. I think it's fair for both spouses to take good care of themselves.
For sure.
Because that matters. And especially in a pregnancy situation, most people focus on the mom and the baby, and the dad's son kind of gets left in the background sometimes. So I was pleased for him that he said, hey, can we take a look at this? And I was happy to do it.
Did he have specific concerns?
Not, just some general spine pain. But again, at 30-something, nothing severe. And so we did his initial intake evaluation, and I got to shoot his x-rays. So on the outside, people can look really good. On the inside, their x-rays tell a story.
Yeah.
And his story was one of a neck that had been injured as a younger person and had not been managed well. And so I just got to lay out, here's what we see, here's what we found, here's what your nerve system's doing based on your surface EMG, your thermal scanning, your heart rate variability, range of motion testing. Here's what it looks like. And that testing gives you a core score. If I give average points out of a possible 100, this guy is 32 years old, but he's living in a 61-year-old
body
nerve system. Well, in other words, the stress, it's basically a stressometer.
Yeah.
But he's functioning at 61% capacity, which means there's a lot of room to improve just the quality of your life.
Right.
Regardless of whether you do or do not have spine pain.
Yeah.
So I got to share the results of his findings, and he was a little skeptical. I'll say he was skeptical.
Interesting.
Like he wanted me to convince him to stick around, and I'm like, that's not why I'm here.
Yeah, yeah.
You know.
Never has
and
been.
oddly enough, his job is a government. He's a contractor that does troubleshooting for computer systems and projecting potential threats and potential problems.
Interesting.
I said we do the same thing.
Yes.
I have the same job. And so I shared with him, here's what I've learned, and this is yours. You can do with it as you please. And he wanted me to talk him into it. And I'm like, yeah, no, you know. And then his thing is, well, we just bought a house, and we just had a baby, and we just have this, and we just have this. And he's got 10 reasons to just leave this information on the table.
Yeah.
But then he wanted to tell me, here's what I want to do with a care plan. And I'm pretty good at knowing here's what a care plan should look like for a person in this situation. So my recommendations would be X, Y, and Z.
Right.
Well, he wanted to do things A, B, and C.
Okay.
And I said, then you should call me back when it's time for you to do it right. Because I would rather have you not start care than do it poorly. And then you would not get the desired outcome. And then you would somehow see that as my fault. And so when you're ready, you call me back. But it's hard as a 60-something to tell this 30-something that he's not bulletproof yet.
Right.
And he did not stay. And I encouraged him to, you call me back when you're ready.
Right.
Your measurements are going to be here, and we'll go when you know that's a green light. But he had, 10 reasons, mostly financial, I think, to say that he didn't want to do that.
That's interesting, though, that he did want to come in and be evaluated.
Well, and spinal care is like anything else. Once you know, you can either use the information to your advantage or you can put it on the shelf. It's like the gospel. Once you know who Jesus is, you can either use that information to your advantage or you can just not.
Right.
But you can't unknow it.
Yes.
And so that's what I know for this particular person. He can't unlearn what he learned today. He'll just have to figure out when it's appropriate for him. But like I said, I come off of this weekend where it's like, I'm thinking much more, like my runway is getting a lot shorter than a 30-something-year-old guy.
Yeah.
He still thinks he's got all this runway left to land his life. And he, God willing, he does.
It's more, But it's that health span, lifespan conversation too.
Yes, it's a quality issue, not a quantity issue.
Yeah.
It's not a things issue. Well, we just bought a house and I just got a this and I just did a that. And I'm like, guess what? None of that counts when you're gone.
And not just that. I mean, health is wealth now.
Yeah.
Like that is the luxury item is health, whether you're 30, 40, 50, 60, 90, whatever. It's not about the car you drive or the house that you live in. I mean, the more we hear and see, the more it is definitely health.
Yep. You'll never hear anybody on their deathbed saying, gosh, I wish I had more stuff.
Yeah.
It's
right.
the people,
And
it's the
staying and
experience,
living
it's
as
the
well
energy,
as you can for as long as you can.
Yeah.
That's what matters.
It's just an odd thing. So this is like a kind of an odd topic for us, but I think it's important.
But I think it's important too. I think it's okay
it came
to
up
reflect.
at a time that we couldn't really ignore it. We could have not done this episode.
Right.
But I hope it's valuable. I hope somebody is like, and I know Dolores will listen. Dolores always listens.
Hi, Dolores.
I love Dolores, and she'll probably comment. And I hope it's something that she can appreciate.
I know. Maybe she can tell us if there's something that she's keeping because it carries a story, or what she might be ready to release for her next season of life.
Yeah.
Or let's see, one more question. What in your home feels alive to you, Dolores? We'd love to know.
Or everybody.
Or
something
everybody.
in your home.
Yeah.
That does feel alive. That you will keep around.
And that you look at it and it brings you joy.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the thing.
That you wouldn't
surround
discard
yourself with joy.
because it's just something.
Yeah, because it's just a thing. No, for sure. Well, this was fun. Thanks, babe, for when you came home and you guys were talking about all this. And I'm like, oh, I know what we're talking about on Tuesday.
Yeah. Weird.
Even though it's Thursday. right now for anybody that's listening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, so what should they do?
Oh, you want me to do the whole like, subscribe, and share?
Like,
I thought
subscribe,
you would just say,
comment.
I would just say, hang on to the things that help you live well together.
Oh, yeah, that's a good idea. Good
Like,
answer.
subscribe, and share if you want to. We don't really care. It's all going down the tubes eventually.
The YouTubes.
The YouTubes.
Thanks, everybody. We appreciate you guys
Yeah.
checking in. Bye.
We'll see you next time.
Don't stop me. Don't stop me now.
Woo, woo, woo.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Was it too sad, Graham? Or did we do okay with that?
it's fine.
He says that every time.
So we got to send him some coffin pictures, some mausoleum pictures.